Wednesdays is a day that I'm committed. I teach at the seminary. And for at least 1 hour before class, usually longer, I'm required to be there early because I have to provide what's called office hours, even though my office is a chair in the library. Okay? So I sit in the library, I do parish stuff, I'm talking to Julianne, we're texting, we're doing stuff. So this week, I'm watching, and I noticed as you walk in the library, there's a whole bunch of reference books that are not on the shelves. So I said to myself, I've been here, I know what this means. A number of the seniors are preaching in their parishes this week, and those are all the commentaries that are missing. Because they're going to find out what they're supposed to preach about. Because the parish priest, where they're serving as an intern, has decided, these readings are hard, let me stick the intern. Okay? Which, full transparency, if we had a seminarian come here, I'd do the same exact thing. Okay? The reason being, this is where you learn to really struggle with Scripture and where you learn to preach. So I walked by, and two of the people who were slaving away, working, reading this commentary, that text, that language dictionary, this theology professor's notes, blah, 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 and they're all going along. And I just kind of walked by and smiled. And one of them, who happens to be in my canon law class, turned up and said to me, "Are you preaching this weekend?" And I turned to her and said, "Child, I serve in a parish in the middle of nowhere, New York. Get over it. I preach like most parish priests every weekend. I don't serve at St. Thomas's on Fifth Avenue or at the cathedral where you're lucky if you're on the cycle where you get to preach once every 5 weeks." I said, "That's not the real life of a parish priest. You got a term paper due every week and you better be on." So they said, "What are you going to do with these readings?" I said, "Oh no, I'm not writing your sermon for you. I've been there." It's powerful, and it's difficult, and there's a lot here. And I'm going to help you struggle with it, and I hope you take it to heart. And I hope some of you agree with me, I hope some of you disagree with me, but more importantly, you take it as part of your own prayer life. It's hard to ask for help when you have a sense of self-worth. It's hard to ask when you don't know what the answer is going to be. As a kid growing up, I sold candy to raise money for our class trips. I sold newspapers and hated collection Fridays, okay? Because you don't know what kind of reaction you're going to get from the person behind the door with the dog barking and the angry person. Any of you who saw El Camino, the Clint Eastwood character, "Get off my lawn," I know that person. I delivered papers to him many years. So Jesus tells a very interesting story to get people's attention about the reality of prayer and what we do with prayer. He says, all right, here's a story. Once upon a time, they went, and by the way, it's a parable. Very important word. It's a parable. It's not an allegory. An allegory, for you English teachers, you'll correct me, all right? An allegory, every character, every event, every stage, everything in it is something that stands for something else. A parable is a story that has one point. So don't be making connections, this stands for this or that stands for that, all right? Jesus told a parable. He says, once upon a time, there was this widow. Now our minds immediately think, this is an older woman. But as I've told you before, with the lifespan of people, this could have been a woman, and respectfully, as old as you, an older woman. This could be a person in his or her middle years, and I'm not going to mention who, because of that I can get thrown at, or as young as either Abby or Lily. Marriage at 14, you could be a widow at 16. It's possible. Disease, the murder rate, your oppressed country, famine, all sorts of things. Okay? And what do we know about her? In a male-dominated patriarchal society, she has no legal standing. She has no right to file a complaint against anyone unless she finds a man who's willing to do it for her. She cannot read. She probably cannot, therefore, consult any kind of expert. She cannot go to the law books. She can't go online and go to legal.com. She can't call up Matt or Stephen and say, "I need someone to help me. You're an attorney, help me." She is powerless. So there she is. And she's confronting a judge. Now, we ain't talking Supreme Court justice here, okay? All right. We're talking petty town court judge, all right? Administrative court bureaucrat, who certainly can read the legal text, but probably has forgotten how to read the scriptures, especially things in Isaiah that says, seek justice, rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, plead for the widow, all that stuff. He probably hasn't read that in a while. This is the interpreter of regulations. This is the person who has gotten to his position in the local community because he has mastered the most important thing a local petty bureaucrat has to learn. Take stuff from the inbox and put it into the outbox. And whoever makes the most noise gets their case heard first. So this widow, who is a nobody as far as her culture in that society, you can see her case, it's here, and then the next case comes and it gets put on that, and the next one gets put on that, and the next one, and so on, and she probably stays at the bottom of the pile forever. She's the victim of bureaucracy just as much as anyone in this room may have been. My uncle served many years in the Navy. I don't know if this is true, but I share a story he once told. And he said that at one time, and I can imagine it being true, but my uncle had a way of stretching the truth. He said at Annapolis once there was an admiral who gave the final commencement address. And he did this very dramatically. He gave his address. They're ready to present the diplomas to the midshipmen. And walked back to the mic and said, and one last thing you better learn as new ensigns. If you're going to sin, sin against God, not the bureaucracy. God forgives. I don't know if that's true, that he said it. I know it's true. All right? So how does the story told? Where are we going with this? Well, Jesus, as he makes up this story, he wants to get people's attention, so he says something which in the long run is really funny. But we don't get it because we don't know the language. All right? He says, eventually the judge comes to his senses and said, listen, I got to give her what she wants. Or otherwise, she's going to come back and wear me out. See those words there? Wear me out. That is not a psychological phrase. That is not a philosophical phrase. That is not a theological phrase. That is a phrase that comes from boxing in the ancient world. To slug someone in the eye and punch their lights out was to quote-unquote wear them out. That's how they use that phrase. So you can actually, in your mind, see Jesus using this phrase and getting a laugh because the image he's getting is probably the little old lady who takes on the judge and just slugs him. Now, where's all this going? What's the point? The point is powerful, but it's something we tend not to believe as often as we should. Jesus is saying, look, you're not comparing God to that judge. That's not the point. The point of all this is this. If an unjust, petty, corrupt, lazy paper pusher, for no other reason, will listen to this woman's plea, how much more will your loving Father listen to you? That's the point. That's where it's heading. And it comes down to two things that I share with you. I hope you listened to the first reading well, okay? We all know the story of Jacob and the broken hip and how he wrestled with God. Sometimes prayer does mean wrestling with God. And that may not be popular, but that is true. And sometimes you walk away from that wrestling with God with a limp. Because you don't hear what you want to hear and we don't receive what we want to receive. But it's the matter of what faith is about. Do we really believe a loving God listens to us and gives us what is best for us even if I don't understand? Those are easy words. That's hard to live. And the second thing I'd ask you to think about is this. In your prayer life, as often as you pray privately, how often do your prayers eventually, if they not always begin, but 95.867% of the time, usually end up with, Lord, I need X, Y, Z? How often do you pray just to speak, just to praise, just to thank, and not ask for something? Prayer is not always about being in need and asking for things. Think of your own life. If you've got a person in your life, family member or friend, if the only time they ever talk to you is when they want something, or they're complaining about something, what kind of dialogue are you going to have with that person? Many parish priests, I am not saying it is me, but you can draw your own conclusions. Many parish priests keep a list. Because I was taught this in seminary, okay? And the list is of the people who ever come into your office anytime just to say hello and are not asking for something. That list is always very short. I wonder if God keeps a list. Prayer is about asking. Prayer is about acknowledging and owning our needs. Prayer is about wrestling with God. Prayer is about speaking even when we don't need something. All of that is part of faith. And as Jesus says, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith? Amen.
Amen.
Amen.